Hello, everyone. My name is Lindsay, and I'm a counselor here at Moon Prep. Thanks so much for taking the time out of your evening tonight to join our webinar to learn more about scholarships. So a little bit about us first. We are Moon Prep. We provide one-on-one college counseling services. We guide students the entire application process, including writing a memorable personal statement, supplemental essays, interview prep, kind of the whole shebang. And we also work with younger students with course selection, applying to competitive summer camps, pursuing internships, research. And we do work with students of, interested in every type of path and careers, including engineering, finance, business in general. And most of our students are pursuing Ivy League schools, competitive universities, and direct medical programs, specifically BSMD programs, as well as medical school as well. But tonight we have our counselor, Michaela, who is an extremely experienced college admissions counselor. Here she is. And she previously served as an admissions counselor at a Big Ten university, and she was involved in honors recruiting for business, engineering, and pre-med, and is extremely experienced in getting and helping students get scholarships. So I'll let her take over and introduce herself and teach you some good things about scholarships.
Perfect. Thank you, Lindsay. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. Well, hi everyone. My name is Michaela. I am one of the counselors with Moon Prep, and welcome to our scholarship presentation tonight. I know you all have really busy schedules. Everyone's really busy right now. Your time is precious, especially with everybody kind of being stuck at home right now. So I just really am thankful that you're choosing to spend your evening with me, and I really commend you for kind of getting ahead of the game and looking at scholarships right now. So thank you for being here and kind of investing in you or your students' future with looking at scholarships. And tonight we'll be tackling that subject because it's such a big financial factor in the college admissions puzzle, and honestly can ultimately determine where students attend. And so I'm going to share my screen real quick here so we can get started, but we're really excited to share our strategies on hunting down the maximum number of scholarships to fund your educational goals. I'm going to circle back to this point in a moment, but it's my firm belief from my own personal experience that just because a college's goal as a business like any other is not to make your education free, that doesn't mean it can't be the number one goal for your family, especially when you're working with a Moon Prep counselor like me, because our partnerships with our students are so personalized that scholarships can be a big focus for you. So again, let me share my screen real quick so you can see all my slides. 1 second. Here we go. Okay, perfect. So just a little bit about me to begin. So I'm originally from the Midwest. I wanted to go out of state for college, but I did stay in state to kind of, help out with that money, that resident tuition. Since I was originally, planning to go out of state and then stayed in state at the very, very last minute, I actually pursued more outside scholarships than I originally probably would have. I want to make sure my video is on. There we go. Okay, sorry. I didn't realize my video wasn't on. So I pursued more scholarships to cover that out-of-state cost than I probably would have if I knew I was staying in state to begin with. But that actually ended up giving me more money in the long run because I was trying to cover up more of a gap, and then I ended up saving in the long run. So to put things into perspective for you, I graduated with less than $10,000 in loans by just being price conscious and staying in state for school, but also using scholarships to supplement that tuition as well. So since graduating from that in-state university, I worked as a staff writer for a national magazine, and also as an honors recruiter and admissions counselor for a Big Ten conference university. But most importantly, I have had the privilege of sitting on multiple local scholarship committees, in addition to the scholarship committees at the university level, of course. So I have the unique perspective of having been the one reading the essays and the applications on the other side of the scholarship committee table. So this is exactly why I wanted to host these scholarship webinars, to bring all this behind the curtains knowledge to all of you, of course. And now I spend my time with students all across the country through Moon Prep. And like Lindsay mentioned, and thanks again for that intro, Lindsay, that's one thing I love about Moon Prep is that our counselors come from a variety of professional backgrounds, like admissions counselors, ACT and SAT prep tutors, professional writers and guidance counselors, so that when you work with one of us, you're really working with all of us and really benefiting from our collective experience. Another thing I love is how we're always seeking new ways to connect with families, whether it's hosting free webinars like this one or posting an Ask Me Anything session on Reddit. But in this role with Moon Prep, all of my professional strengths have really blended together to help families. So whether it's using my writing background or all of our writing backgrounds by guest blogging at educational powerhouses like niche.com or Forbes, or we're helping students edit their Common App essays, or drawing from my admissions background by having a meeting with an entire family on a financial breakdown of picking their top choices of schools. I'm really doing anything a family or a student needs to meet their goals. But today we're going to be covering one of my personal specialties, which are scholarships. And again, I was really gung-ho about everything, and I went out there and found lots of external scholarships to kind of bridge that gap between which schools I could apply for and ultimately attend. Scholarships were really the missing puzzle piece for me in my college journey. And without scholarships, I could not have graduated on time because I would have been working like 5 jobs. And this might have been true for some of you right now, or scholarships may fill the financial gap between your dream college and the state college down the block. So no matter why you're here today, we're just thankful that you're here, and hopefully you'll learn something. I happen to watch a lot of webinars, honestly, and I feel like webinars tend to be pretty vague and have only a few takeaways by the end of your hour. And I promise that's not going to be the case today. We're going to be jam-packed full of information. So I hope you have a notebook handy and a pen, because I'm going to make sure that you are completely covered and ready to go searching for scholarships right now, no matter how many or what grade you're in, or how much of a financial gap you're looking to fill right now. And just in case you've attended one of our scholarship webinars, I think there was one like 6 months ago and one like a year ago in the fall, I wanted to let you know that we're going to be covering a lot of the same similar material today. We want to offer this webinar a couple times each academic cycle, as new families need this information as they kind of cycle through the academic cycle, or maybe some families that want a refresher on ideas of how to find scholarships. So it's going to be covering a little bit of similar information as before. So in case you've been here before, just know some of it might sound familiar. So today we're going to be discussing the types of scholarships available and how each of these categories are going to affect the final price tag on your top schools. We're also going to explore how to search for outside scholarships. And this is where a lot of people feel really stuck. So we're going to really tackle that today. We're also going to talk about how to create an organized scholarship list to make applying simple and not add to the craziness of your senior year, which is when most scholarships are required, or during senior year. And then finally, what scholarship committees want to see out of your essay. We do have a lot of material to get through today, so please know that I can only answer a limited number of questions. There were a few questions sent in beforehand that I'll be tackling. I worked them right into the material, so I promise those will get taken care of. And I will also pause throughout the webinar to answer questions, especially like where they fit in nicely. And then we're also going to have a Q&A at the very end. So any questions that are kind of outside the realm of scholarships, like if you have questions about just college admissions or, early admissions deadlines, just know I'm not going to forget you, but I'll just answer your question over email after the webinar instead, especially if you provide your information. Send us an email so that we have your email address. And again, we had some questions sent in about international scholarships. So we've just worked that information right into our slides, and so we'll get there soon. So the first thing to do is to really understand where the universities are coming from in their perspective when they're actually creating scholarships to begin with, so that you have the right mindset to begin your search. No matter how high your test scores are, it's really just never in the college's best interest to make their college completely free, and that's totally okay. The resources and talented professors it takes to maintain a high quality education that probably attracted you to their campus in the first place, it does take some money, and a lot of that money does come from tuition. So again, it's just not in their best interest to make college free for absolutely every student attending. And that's where you come in, that you can just do a little bit extra searching, a little bit extra planning in advance to make the best financial decision for yourself. They don't know your situation. The college's job is to do the right research to price their tuition accordingly, and then participate in need-based aid programs like the FAFSA or the CSS profile for private colleges to allow families to afford their tuition. Every single college has their own pricing equation. So after pricing their published tuition, which is also called the cost of attendance, which at the very bottom of your slide right here will be COA. It's what colleges usually refer to as cost of attendance, along with housing and books. Colleges decide on which academic scholarships to offer, how much they can offer in merit scholarships, and at which academic benchmarks. This is something that they consider when they're pricing their tuition in the first place. Like, they have to estimate how many applicants will be having a 31 ACT or a 1500 SAT, because if they're offering full ride scholarships to everybody that has a 25 ACT, then almost half of the attendance to their school would be attending for free, and that simply won't work. They can't run a university on only getting half tuition. So this is just a good starting point, is knowing that the money to maintain a campus and continue to attract professors has to come from somewhere, and tuition is a big part of that. So that's where, again, you come in. It's never in the school's best interest to completely give all of their tuition and education away, which is why even a full ride academic merit scholarship actually rarely covers housing. A lot of the housing scholarships are separate, or sometimes they're only offered to athletic scholarships. So again, after considering the school's cost of attendance, which again should equal the average cost it should take to attend for 1 year with everything included, housing, books, everything, it's up to your family to figure out where the rest of those funds are going to come from. But again, thankfully, scholarships are a great answer to that, as they can truly bridge that gap. So let's discuss the types of scholarships first before I start throwing around terms and confusing anyone. And I'll be pausing at the end of these next 2 slides to answer a question or two, just to give you some time to send in some questions. I know there's lots of different ways to categorize these scholarships, but we're going to keep things as simple as possible now, and then get more complicated later in the webinar. Okay, so the first type of scholarships is merit scholarships. I'm just going to check for any questions now, see if there's any that pop up. Perfect. Okay, perfect. Okay, so the first type is merit scholarships, also called academic scholarships. This category is pretty straightforward, as they're awarded upon admission. So they're just built right into the admissions kind of structure, and they're based on your test scores and also the GPA from the end of your junior year, just basically all the numbers. These aren't based on your income, so these aren't need-based at all. You shouldn't be inputting, your family income or anything like that. These are fantastic awards to research in advance, because they're often renewable for additional years, usually for 4 full years. That's a really easy financial answer for future years to come. And also, if you begin researching your top schools early enough, you can set goals for yourself before you even start to apply. Like the difference between a 28 ACT or a 30 ACT might mean an extra like $3,000, and maybe it takes you only one extra time taking the test, which is definitely worth knowing in advance to set that benchmark for yourself going into the test. And then you can obviously like work hard to perform and reach the goal that you need to make the merit scholarship happen. Some schools offer an unlimited number of these admissions scholarships, these merit scholarships. They just award them as students apply on a rolling basis. They just build them right into their pricing structure. And other schools have a limited quantity, and they work with early action deadlines, which is another reason to research all of this in advance. Every school varies based on when these are awarded, because rolling admissions will award merit scholarships just as they're received, and you should be hearing back from merit scholarships like 30 to 90 days after admission. I would say usually 30 to 60 days. 90 days is kind of a stretch for merits or for rolling admission schools, while an early decision deadline in November might hear back from merit awards anywhere from like January through March. March is a really typical month to hear back about merit awards or, honor society admissions. March is just a really, really kind of like hot month for college admissions, everything. And that just gives you enough time to compare the financial landscape of all of your admitted schools before National Decision Day on May 1st. And just like the graphic here shows, these merit scholarships are often associated with priority scholarship deadlines, which also usually they usually match a school's early admissions deadline. So it's just really important to watch out for deadlines during the entire admissions process to not miss out on any money, any deadlines, anything. And there's a lot of information out there about merit scholarships, but a lot of these answers are going to be based on the individual school. So it's really up to you to do the research in advance. If you have any questions of our merit scholarships, I think there was one that was sent in just while we started, so I'm going to get to that in just one second. I would say that like a big thing that students should be doing when they're building their college list, every student has a college list they're building, and usually has the college name and their price and their deadlines. And then I think a really good column to add to every single college list is what merit scholarships you're likely to be awarded, so that way you can have a better idea of the financial landscape before you even apply. And I think that's a really important thing. And the question that was sent in was kind of had to do with this, and let me pull this up. So Alex Smith is asking, do you have to disclose scholarship funds to your college every time you receive one? And how does that affect your need-based aid? So for a lot of colleges, especially like state universities, they're going to be like need blind. This is a great question, Alex, by the way. They're going to be need blind, and no matter what scholarship money you receive from external scholarships, say you get a scholarship from a local junior achievement chapter or something, they shouldn't care at all about the money that you're receiving for external scholarships. Even if you have a full ride scholarship, that money that you received from the local scholarship should just be able to go towards books or housing. So it shouldn't affect anything at all. Most like state universities are need blind like that. And even if you receive more external scholarships than you need for tuition or housing or anything like that, then it should just come back in extra money to you directly. So it shouldn't be a big deal. Now, some schools are not need blind, and it can affect your need-based aid. And usually that has to do with private schools that have like the CSS profile. So that's kind of gets into tricky territory, but unfortunately you do have to disclose what scholarships you're receiving, because if you don't, then that's obviously kind of like a black mark, like that's not really ethical. So you do have to disclose them no matter what. And again, if you're applying for like a state university, this shouldn't matter at all. The private universities, like I would just do your research and maybe contact their financial aid department in advance and just see like how that's going to really affect you. Sometimes they'll work out, especially private schools, they should be able to work out something with you that maybe it won't affect your need-based aid for tuition. Maybe any external scholarship money that you're disclosing to them, maybe that could just go towards your housing. You can work out a deal like that with them. Private schools are very kind of flexible like that, and they should be able to work with you on something like that. So again, if that didn't answer your question properly, please like send in any kind of like changes to that, and I can answer that in different detail, I guess. But thank you so much for your questions. Send in more as you have them. Again, the big things to note here are that these merit scholarships are the earliest scholarships you'll probably hear back from. So they do have the potential to have the biggest impact on your financial decision on schools. And they're usually renewable, so they have the potential to have the most long-term financial impact over any of the schools that you choose. Okay, so next we have departmental scholarships or other institutional scholarships. You should inquire about these scholarships immediately after receiving an offer of admission. They often have really early deadlines, like in December or January, and these scholarships usually require an additional application or essay. They usually ask you to detail your leadership experience, community service work, or maybe a minority background. They just want you to explain more about yourself. So if you're interested in pursuing an honors program and having that graduated with distinction notation on your diploma, research the scholarship options available through the Honors College. So that's a perfect example of one of these departmental scholarships. Honors colleges usually often include a book scholarship or a stipend for research with an honors professor. So these funds can just take shape in many different ways. You should also look into departmental scholarship opportunities of your future major. This is like a scholarship awarded for incoming marketing majors from the business department. A student that I worked with last year who was a family friend, she had pretty average grades and test scores and only received about $2,000 in merit aid from those merit scholarships from her top school. But she was actually pursuing pre-veterinary science, and she received an extra $5,000 renewable award from the veterinary science department because they liked all the internships she had on her resume, and they didn't care so much about her GPA and her, ACT, SAT score. So for her, researching these departmental scholarships in advance at her top school and being prepared really saved her a lot of money in the long run. So just be on the lookout for these major specific scholarships as early as you can. Unfortunately, sometimes there's very little information about these departmental scholarships. So sometimes they're not published on the website sometimes. Sometimes you still have to choose your top 10 schools and apply and then start inquiring after these departmental schools or scholarships, after you apply. So sometimes there's just not a lot of information out there. And you just have to wing it and see what you can get. Athletic scholarships kind of follow their own timeline. They're really tricky because you have to contact coaches and work with coaching staff to secure offers. Since the funds are usually controlled and divided up between recruits by the head coach, there's usually very little information published about the available scholarships, and even admissions counselors, like the general admissions counselors, typically have very little information about athletic scholarships beyond just general statistics because the funds are always in flux as they continue to recruit. So my big advice for pursuing athletic scholarships is to start very, very early. Contact those coaches as early as possible to get the maximum funds before they start using those funds, those extra funds, as incentives later in the spring for those indecisive students. Transfer scholarships are another strange sector because there's very typically limited number of awards available. The general assumption is that you've already attended school elsewhere to save money on those core educational credits. So the colleges are not super eager to hand out tons of scholarships to transfer students when they know they're basically your second choice. For example, colleges can't really discriminate between students who are maybe transferring in from a community college or they're transferring in from a private college that costs a ton of money. I had a student once that applied and she had attended TCU and basically was applying to my school because it was just so expensive. And so she was asking what scholarships were available, and she didn't qualify for any of them. And she was really upset because when she was a freshman, or an incoming freshman, she qualified for a full ride scholarship. So there were just literally so few academic transfer scholarships that even a student who qualified for a full ride scholarship didn't qualify for any transfer scholarships. And again, they just can't discriminate between like, oh, this person saved money because they went to a community college and this person attended a really, really expensive college. So we're going to give this person a scholarship, but not this person. They have to treat them all equally, and they're both transfer students. So that's why there's just usually very few transfer scholarships available. Of course, every school is different, so there can obviously be different numbers of transfer scholarships from different colleges, but that's just kind of a general rule. Okay, any questions at all that have popped up? Let me just check. So like click on a few things to be able to check. So I'm sorry, it takes a little second. Okay, perfect. So let's move on. This is a really good time to talk about international students and international scholarships. So because some of the rules are a bit different, like international students can't apply for need-based aid in most cases. For students in other countries searching for ways to attend a US college affordably, finding the right college is really the best first step to getting off on the right financial foot. Many schools offer great scholarships for international students, or they have an overall tuition cap to give international students a break. This is usually called banded tuition. So when you're searching for colleges, you can search for banded tuition colleges if you want to find colleges that have that tuition cap, which just means that like international students and out-of-state students will be paying the same amount. And this is true in schools like Southwest Minnesota State and Indiana University Bloomington. So those are just two examples of colleges that have that banded tuition. Departmental scholarships are one of the best ways to obtain international scholarships, especially in the science fields. That's a really big field for international students to get those departmental scholarships. Department heads will actually value the best and the brightest talent and the applicants with the most potential for putting their research on the map rather than what country they originate from. They just want to kind of reward the best and the brightest minds in the field. So for international students, I recommend searching the same scholarship search engine sites I'm going to talk about in just a couple slides, but you're just going to be searching for different keywords. You can search for international scholarships, or maybe the country that you're from, and then scholarships. There's also quite a few specific scholarship sites for international students, like internationalstudent.com, then /scholarships has over 1,500 scholarships with unrestricted nationality and host countries. You can just like choose what country you're from and what country you're planning to go to, and it'll show you a list of different scholarships. So that's a great website. I really highly recommend that one. On that website, some of the scholarships are specific to a major. So you'll have to kind of like comb through them and make sure that your major matches up with the scholarship that's being offered. Also, the Fulbright Foreign Student Program offers financial support to international students seeking an American degree for a year or more. That wording that they say for a year or more indicates that this is a renewable award, so it's a great one to go after. And since a question about this specifically was emailed in prior to the webinar, students from India are on the list of countries available for this program, that Fulbright Foreign Student Program. So also, if you're female or from a developing country, there's even more specific awards out there, and that's really available if you just do kind of a general Google search. And if you're a first generation student, there's even more opportunities to even count for both international and domestic students. So just do your homework and kind of search out there. And I'll get to this in another slide too, but even for just other students, resident students that are in a specific major, I recommend just doing a Google search. So you can search on these websites that you see listed on your slide right now, but also just doing a Google search and also a search on the schools you're interested in. Honestly, international students just have to do the same searching that a resident student would do, just with different keywords. And again, choosing an affordable college in the beginning will really help with overall costs. I recommend a Google search, again, just searching for schools with out-of-state tuition that matches international students' tuition. There's also like just lists that have been published out there that are international friendly with their tuition. But again, it all depends on like what states that you plan that you are interested in attending. So a lot of those lists are, kind of by state. So just do your research in advance, and then the scholarships will kind of fall in place after you kind of make some of those big decisions first. All right, are there any questions at all that have come in? Go ahead and send in anything. Okay, so what about students who don't know what you want to study? Can you apply for scholarships in different colleges? That's a great question. So yeah, absolutely. Not only do most colleges offer, kind of a what's it called, like what is it called? I'm blanking on it, but like kind of a general education major. I'm blanking on like the actual name. But if you don't know what you want to
Undecided?
study, yes, undecided. Thank you. I'm like undeclared. That's like not the right word anymore. It's undecided. That's right. Thank you. So not only is that really common, and a lot of students actually do know what they want to study and just can't decide between like two exact majors and still just go in as undecided. So that's totally fine. Um, if you want to apply for scholarships, that's a little bit harder to do with departmental, but if you do have an idea of at least the department that you want to study, even like psychology is within arts and sciences, so you'd be applying for arts and sciences. But if you know specifically you are interested in more like neuroscience, that's a lot more in the biology section. So that like helps you kind of narrow down your departmental scholarships that you're applying for. I would say there's very few like undecided departmental scholarships. So that's kind of a tough one. I would recommend trying to do everything you can to choose a major, or at least narrow it down to a few, because again, you can always apply to a school with like your first choice major and then take a semester of classes and change your major. Like I changed my major twice. Like that happens. So you can always apply to with what you think you want to study, and then obviously apply for departmental scholarships because that happens every day, and then change your major. It's usually not going to be a big deal. And if you've got a departmental scholarship, either that can transfer to your new major, or there might be new opportunities in your new major if it's in a different department. Usually it will be within the same department, since people have really similar interests and they're just choosing between a couple majors. So again, that departmental scholarship would just usually just transfer to the new major since it's within the same department. So hopefully that answered your question. Thank you very much for asking, Rosie. That was a really good question. Lindsay, are there any other questions that came in from like Facebook or anything like that I'm missing?
Nope, you're all good.
Okay, perfect. Alrighty. So we will move on. Again, if you have any other questions about international scholarships or anything like that, send them in. And if they don't fit with the information that we're kind of covering, I promise I'll reach out to you over email right after this. Okay. So there's also tuition discounts at private colleges and also work-study programs to chip away at that final price tag. But these are all usually like need-based, and we have a lot of material to get through, so we can't really cover the FAFSA and CSS profile in full detail right now. But if you do want to see a future webinar on need-based aid, then add a comment below or email us afterwards, and we can certainly plan this for a future webinar if it interests enough of you. If you send in your questions, we'll build a webinar around your specific questions. We can do that. But for now, my advice regarding need-based aid is that there's a lot of families out there who just don't believe they're going to qualify for aid at all, so they don't apply at all. When actually they'd be surprised what they would qualify for, especially if they have like 2 kids in college or live in a certain area. And since it certainly doesn't hurt anything other than like 30 minutes of your time, my advice is just to apply for aid right away when the FAFSA opens on October 1st. You know, it's May right now, and so you have tons of time to prepare and just plan to apply for the FAFSA right away when it opens October 1st. Another fun fact is that if a school you're interested in, like a private school, has a CSS profile, this form actually has different requirements and benchmarks than the FAFSA does. So families who wouldn't qualify for aid under the FAFSA, they often actually do earn aid under the CSS profile schools. So it's just a thought, but it never hurts to apply, of course. Work-study programs in particular are one avenue that allowed me to pay for a significant portion of my tuition. You typically have an amount that you qualify for. Again, this is need-based. And then you work a campus job. Every school is different, but my school allowed me to allowed me all of my paycheck to go towards my tuition account. And then once that money that I was qualified for was met, I think it was like $4,000, then I began receiving a normal paycheck. And nowadays, most schools just prefer to give you a regular paycheck from the beginning just for you to use at your discretion. In this case, a great rule of thumb, if that's the case for you, is just to apply like half of your earnings directly to your tuition bill. So you don't have the opportunity to spend it like I would. I would just spend any money I got. So that brings us, after we talked about need-based aid and merit scholarships and also departmental scholarships, it brings us to private scholarships or external scholarships. And that's where we're going to be spending the rest of our time exploring today. I know this is where a lot of people have the most questions, so I'm going to pause for questions after this next slide. Again, these are also called outside scholarships, and this is the big mystery that absolutely everybody wants to crack. It's like, where do you find those scholarships? That's like the number one question I get from parents. These are typically privately offered, usually through organizations outside of the college. These scholarships are the true answer to an affordable college tuition because they can apply to any school. They're not tied to a certain school, so you can, rack up 10 of these external scholarships, and they can be applied to literally any school you choose. So where do you begin? A lot of places are going to try to sell you their amazing method of finding scholarships, like there's some big secret out there. Well, I can tell you that from someone who got a lot of these external scholarships, the big secret is just that it takes some time, some organization, and honestly, a lot of work, a lot of legwork. And like most things that seem overwhelming at first, it's best to start small, applying for the scholarships with the least amount of competition. The applications for these usually ask for an activities resume, a general information about what high school you attend and maybe your class rank or anything like that. They also usually ask for an essay, and about half of them ask for a teacher recommendation. And just remember, if you're intimidated by the number of requirements that these scholarships are asking for, other students are super intimidated too. So especially do not shy away from a scholarship that has an essay. This is actually where the big money is actually in the scholarships that are kind of asked for a lot of requirements because every other student is kind of too busy or too lazy to finish because they're a lot more work. So for each requirement on the application, imagine another opponent dropping out of the race. And just like our page, previously showed, apply to anything and everything you can remotely relate to. So even if you feel like, oh, my GPA is a 3.489 and they want a 3.5 GPA. Well, and it's a local scholarship, well, you don't know, maybe they didn't have enough students apply for that scholarship. And if you're reusing an essay that you've used for another scholarship and you already have your resume done, what does it hurt just to send off an application through an email? It's not that big of a deal. And again, maybe they had 10 awards available and they only received 7 applications. Well, then they'll probably want to award that to someone who maybe doesn't meet the requirements by just a touch, rather than have money go unawarded. That doesn't look good to their committee at all. So again, just make sure you apply for anything and everything you can remotely relate to. Even if it's saying, again, talking about my friend who was a pre-vet major, what if she didn't apply for pre-vet scholarships that had to do with small animal, just because she was interested in working with, cows and goats and horses? She could have won a scholarship that was just pre-vet in general, but maybe had some wording about small animal, but instead she went for all of them and it worked out for her in the end. So, okay, this is where you actually get started. First, you should check with your school's counseling website and then follow up with your guidance counselor. Sometimes they know of newer scholarships that haven't been posted on their website yet, because just of lack of staff over summer break or getting busy with transcripts and class registrations. Some of them also don't have access to edit the website directly, so they're waiting on someone else to update the website. So just always check with them to see if there's any scholarships they know of that aren't posted on the website. During my time as an admissions counselor, I would actually often see students from the exact same high schools all enter colleges with this, all enter my college with the same local scholarships. This is a really good idea, is you can also ask your counselor for past graduation commencement programs to see which local scholarships have been earned in the past by other local graduates from your school, and then just follow their same pattern, because these scholarships are likely to award money to people at your school because they've done it in the past. So it's an easy answer. And then next, we want you to check the websites at other schools around your region. Private scholarships from small businesses tend to only contact one high school that they attended when they were young, or just a couple high schools in the area. They don't typically send out their information to every high school all around the region. That just isn't something they tend to do. So in reality, there might be very few applicants from that school that they sent their information to, and the local company's preference might be to simply award a local student regardless of their high school. So just be careful to check the wording on these local scholarships, especially if you're looking at another school's website. Just check to make sure that they don't want to award someone from that school. But this way you can make sure to not miss out on a good opportunity. It's really important to know that with all of these local scholarships, a lot of them prefer their money to stay in state. So they want applicants that want to go to an in-state college, they want their money to stay local. So they might have a stipulation that the recipient attend a local college. This is really important just to know, just note in the back of your mind, and just make sure to check the wording on all the scholarship applications in advance before you apply, if you're planning to go out of state for college. So that's why it says resident colleges in parentheses on the bottom of your page. Okay, next we're going to widen our search away from the schools a little bit, but we're still going to stay local. This is kind of probably going to be a very time-consuming portion of your search, because this can really take some time and legwork. There's a lot of different avenues to look through here. We need to research local organizations that offer scholarships. And this is where becoming a resident expert of your area is really going to pay off. This is a great place to find scholarships with less competition and a higher chance of snagging them. These are organizations like Boy Scouts, Elks Club, Rotary Clubs, Toastmasters, 4-H clubs, churches, and especially local nonprofits. That's where a lot of really good money can be found, is local nonprofits. In my city, there's a great scholarship through the local Independent Business Association, and they award 40 scholarships per year. And fun fact, they only, that local Independent Business Association, I can never say that, they only advertise on the local radio stations websites. So that's a really good thing to know, is to go on every single website of local radio stations and TV stations in your area and just search the word scholarships on their website and just see if any surprising hidden gems pop up. That's one of the scholarship committees that I sat on. So if you have any questions about like what a local scholarship committee is looking for, definitely send in those questions. Next, we're going to branch out a little bit more, and we're going to look into local businesses that have national chapters. The best way to describe this is by giving you an example. So if your area has a junior achievement chapter, this is a national education nonprofit that talks about entrepreneurship with students. You'll notice that their office offers local scholarships to area high school students for students who attend like a sponsored event or have a junior achievement volunteer in their classroom. But there's also larger national websites or scholarships listed on their Junior Achievement USA website. So you could potentially win 2 scholarships, the local one and the national chapter version. So 2 scholarships for meeting the same actual criteria just by doing some homework. So again, look for any local chapters that have a bigger national chapter and see if you qualify for any of those bigger national scholarships as well. And then lastly, we have those national scholarships. These are the ones that you're going to be filling out kind of a profile to find. These are the ones like FastWeb, scholarships.com. These have the most competition. So, instead of the local scholarships where you're going to have only like 10 other applicants, these are going to have hundreds of applicants. So they have the most competition, but if you scour the internet, you'll definitely find the most variety here. This group also has the highest likelihood of having scholarships for current college students. So if you have older siblings, or if you're going into your freshman year of college and you feel like you're missing the boat a little bit with outside scholarships, national scholarships are going to have a lot of variety for maybe your next year. So you can spend your freshman year in college looking for external scholarships for sophomore, junior, and senior year. These are websites like FastWeb and scholarships.com. They allow you to search by your major and allow you to be a little bit more specific in your searches. Other websites include Unigo, Scholarship Monkey, niche.com. And in addition to these big websites, I really, really, again, just recommend a good old-fashioned Google search for like engineering scholarships, especially even with your state in that keyword. So just add your state in there and see if there's anything that pops up. I was giving a speech at a local junior. It was a group of juniors, but it was an animal science group, and it was last year. And I did just like a Google search, and I found 25 scholarships just for horse owners. Again, just like one of those little niche areas. And just looking through random websites in a Google search, and I only found 5 on those big search engines, and those were all for like veterinary science majors. And I found 25 that were just like horse lovers. I really, really recommend a good old-fashioned Google search, because you never know what you're going to find out there. There's clothing designs ones. There's ones for like budding authors, and maybe you have a group of unpublished new short stories from when you were in middle school. You could win a scholarship off of it. You have no idea what's out there. There's lots of crazy stuff, but I'm going to pause for questions here and just see if anything has come in, because I know there's been a lot. Yes, Raise Me. Okay, thank you, Annette. Raise Me is a great option. So Raise Me is kind of, I'm probably gonna get this wrong, but allows you to kind of like get involved in different like local things, and then like earn money for, if you get a top, what's it called? Like if you get a top score on a test, or I think even like for what score you get, the ACT and things like that, like different colleges will match you in scholarship money. And so you just have to make sure, right? Raise Me is a great option. Look into it, see how much that you can earn, or how much your school kind of like, what's it called? participates in it, and then also look at the top schools, colleges in your area, and make sure that they actually participate in the Raise Me program too, because I think a college has to participate in it to actually allow you to cash in that money, but you're just basically earning Raise Me dollars or scholarship dollars. It's usually on a very small scale, but you can earn money just based on things you're already doing, like studying hard in school or volunteering and things like that. So it's a really great program. Just make sure that like your high school and the colleges that you're interested in are all participating, but definitely look into it in your area. And that's a great option. Raise Me is a really great thing to mention. Thank you very much for saying that. Okay, we're gonna move on from this. If you have any other questions about national scholarships, send them in. But at this point, we're adding all of these scholarships and like where to find them. And this is a great segue into how to organize them. And after we talk about how to organize them, then we're gonna be covering kind of like when to start searching for scholarships, like when is a really good time and when are they due. So here I have a sample scholarship list that I helped a student in the past build. It was mostly made up of local scholarships, and you can see how clearly organized it is by its columns. One thing to note here is that obviously we have like the deadline in column number 1 that keeps us organized, and you can set reminders for yourself, as well as the name. And then of course over here we'll have like the link to apply. Also the amount, I'll mention something about the scholarship amounts in a second, and also which essay does it use and what is the essay prompt and what is the word count. So this student was really inventive, and oops, just kidding, I cannot get back, go back, sorry. The student was really inventive, and he actually put which essay was required right here, and then on another tab within the scholarship list within the Excel spreadsheet, he actually had the entire body of his essay kind of like just dumped into one of the cells. So he just had like why major and then the entire essay once he was done with it. So then he just got to reuse his essays as much as he wanted. He knew they were already done. And then he also had the word count beside it for just showing himself, this essay, this Y major essay was 500 words. So then if he's looking at the March 1st one for LCF for $2,000, he knows, okay, the word count here is there's 750. So either I can expand that a little bit, or I can just send in the essay that's a little bit short. And the same for this GC1 Senate. The word count is 300, so even though he's going to use that same essay, he just needs to cut it down a little bit. So this is really good to keep himself organized, and it really worked out for him in the long run. So as you can see here, this is just for some local scholarships, but this is how I recommend that you set up an Excel spreadsheet or just a document that has literally everything you need to know about every single scholarship you plan to apply for. And once you start searching, I promise, like it really goes fast, I promise. Oh, geez. Now I'm going the wrong way every time. So I have a few tips just to cover real quick when you're going after these national scholarships, because honestly, there's some fake awards out there. They're just trying to get your information to sell to other companies. And you can usually spot these because they're the text to win or no essay or sweepstakes scholarships. I'm not saying that every scholarship out there that's lacking an essay is a scam, but a scholarship committee who's being responsible with their funds will really want to reward a deserving student. That's kind of hard to determine through just a text message. So just go ahead and set up a new email address to use when applying for scholarships. Just check it once a week and you are totally fine. You should also never have to pay a fee to get access to scholarships, and also just start really early. In fact, for seniors and parents of seniors who might be feeling a little bit behind in all of this, I can tell you, like, it's never too late to get started. And again, like, oh, sorry. I would really recommend, like, again, in a perfect world, you'd start in your junior year, but that doesn't always happen, obviously. Some people are starting in their senior year, and that is totally fine. It's just that if you get started early, you have the best chance of being really, really, really kind of prepared, and are just like really prepared for all the essays, you have time and everything like that. So I just want to show you kind of a general percentage timeline of when you should be applying to things. So again, in a perfect world, in your junior fall, you're going to be researching scholarships and creating your list. In your junior spring, you're going to be finalizing your college list and begin applying. Oops, I keep doing this on accident. And then in your over your summer of your junior year, you're going to be finishing writing all of your scholarship and admissions essays. So you're just ready for your senior year. And by senior fall, you're going to be applying by all the early action deadlines, early action, early decision, all the priority registration dates. And then in your senior spring, you're going to be evaluating all your scholarship offers. And that's February through April, and then making your decision by May 1st. And again, I just want to show you a little percentage of when, general percentage timeline of when most scholarships are due during your senior year. You're going to have plenty of time to focus on early admissions, college applications, and then focus on those spring scholarship deadlines. So like 20% of them are due in October, November, 30% of them are due December and January, and 50% of them are due March, April, and May. So again, you have plenty of time to kind of focus on them. There's still a bunch of scholarships due. If you're a senior right now, there's still a ton of them due in May and June. And then again, you can focus on ones for your sophomore, junior, and senior year too. And also, I do recommend, one of my biggest things that I recommend is that I know that a lot of students kind of skip over applying to any scholarships that have like smaller amounts because they're kind of like not worth $10,000. And this is a really, really big mistake, honestly, because if you have one scholarship for $10,000, there's going to be a lot of competition for that one. When if you applied for 10 $1,000 scholarships, that's the same amount of money, and it is worth your time. So, okay, I'm going to stop and just pause for questions right here. And I do recommend that you just plan to spend an hour or two each week alternating looking for new scholarships and then applying for ones that you have found. Okay, perfect. I have a question from Rosie about where can she start doing community service? Any organizations, please? Yeah, so this is a really great question, Rosie. Thank you again for asking. If people are really kind of stumped on like where to find community service and volunteering, I really recommend, you can, number one, you can start your own thing. You can get involved in something that you're really passionate about. And this is really going to be determined by what kind of school you're planning to go to. So if you're planning to go to a in-state college, look at their community service scholarships and see kind of a guideline for what they want to see out of a community service scholarship. And this usually they have like profiles of past students, and that'll help you get an idea, especially locally, of what things to kind of join. But you can also start your own thing. Think about doing like fundraisers for a local event, again, to an in-state college. This looks really impressive. And maybe just start something within your school. Maybe doing a clothing drive or teaching other students how to like build something or create something. And this really shows that you're involved in your community, also your peers, but maybe you can manage something as well. So specific organizations are kind of hard. If your student is interested in like STEM at all, I really love the Girls Who Code. They have really great kind of summer programs. I don't know if they're holding them this year, of course, because everything's kind of messed up. But I really recommend like looking into maybe things that are in her interests. But send us an email afterwards. Tell us about your student's exact interests, and I'd love to kind of like talk to her and see if there's anything I can do to help her find something locally that she can really kind of like dig into. But when you're looking for scholarships, definitely just like plan to dedicate 2 hours a week during your senior year. Throw on a rerun of Friends or something, or The Office every Sunday night, and just make it a habit. Knock out these scholarships, just build them into your weekly schedule. So lastly, I want to talk about the essay. I know we only have a few more minutes left because we're already over time. I'm sorry, guys. Um, oops. So essay tips. First of all, I really want to bring to light um, to cater to your audience. What I mean by this is to pay attention to the company offering the scholarship. At that local independent business association that I sat on their committee for, when I sat on that scholarship board, the essays written about students who started their own lawn mowing business always won over essays who described a passion for nursing and helping others, simply because the board was made up of people who had owned their own businesses. So just always kind of pay attention to the company who's offering the scholarship, and then maybe try to tweak your essay to kind of match them a little bit. In that case, it was the audience that mattered. So that being said, it's really important to show your personality and be creative, and you know, just try to avoid just using your essay as an extended resume. Instead of saying, my name is Michaela, and for the past 2 summers I taught piano lessons. Try starting it with, when my fingertips touch ivory, I feel more at home than when I walk in my front door. That's an opening that is really intriguing and is different. So any chance to brighten the reader's day will always stand out in the best way. And then finally, we have my famous grocery store analogy. And what I mean by this is that scholarship applications aren't as extensive as a college app. They don't have a further chance of getting to know you outside of the essay and the brief resume. The essay is really your only chance to show your personality at all. So imagine your scholarship essay is essentially walking up to someone in a grocery store, handing them your essay, and asking them if you could have $20 from their grocery fund to fund your college education. Honestly, in the big picture, it's kind of the way scholarships work. You're just submitting an essay and hoping for some money. So just make sure this grocery store analogy works for all the essays that you're submitting. And every student that works with me knows I hate being vague. So I'm going to show you an essay where this is actually like in progress, actually being shown. Now, this is, of course, kind of a pared down version of what an essay would actually be, because I can't fit 500 words on the screen. But the prompt for this one is actually an essay that I pared down for this slide that was used in the past. So the prompt for this is tell us why you chose your major. This is really a common go-to questions for scholarships to ask, by the way. So here we go. I taught myself to knit as a way to connect with my grandmother, as age kept her from attending all of my school plays. After she passed, I continued knitting for the memories it held. After knitting myself a new fall wardrobe, it's a little bit of humor right there, I began knitting winter scarves and hats to donate during the holidays to my local homeless shelter, as well as knitting small bunnies and bears for a local foster home facility. I also hosted knitting classes in a variety of churches and nursing homes to connect with new knitting friends. As I look forward to my college aspirations, I'm excited to pursue a major in education. I hope to continue to find new ways to connect with others, just as the simple act of knitting brought me closer to my grandmother in her last years. So now, why is this essay effective? Well, we could do a whole another webinar on this, but it essentially boils down to the fact that you believe the author. You get to know her and her family in just a few short words, and by the end, she sounds like a genuinely good person. This isn't some unattainable, amazing story of someone escaping a war-torn area. This is a normal girl next door that did something worthwhile with a hobby. By the end, you genuinely believe that she's going to do something great with her education, just as she's proven she's going to do a lot of good with very few resources. In short, she would probably earn your 20 bucks at the grocery store, right? So if you liked that essay approach and you feel like your essay, your scholarship essays or your Common App essay could use a little help from having one of us work with you, the good news is that we're here for you. Not only are we available to work with you to find scholarships, but if you want Moon Prep in your corner, we would love to meet with you and help with anything you need in the admissions process. We even have a free ebook to help you with essays at this link you'll see on your screen right here. I know Lindsay probably has a few closing words for you, but it was great to meet you all. Please send in your questions with your email addresses, and I promise I will get back to you right after this. Thank you all for attending.
Yeah, thank you everyone for coming. This was really great. I'll be sending off the recording in case like you missed it or you need any more help. And you are more than welcome to email us, email me, email Michaela, and work with her directly on finding scholarships, no matter what age you are, as she kind of mentioned throughout her webinar. So we'll send off the recording, and we also actually have offering a free course if you are planning on applying to colleges. We're doing an 8-week course on writing the personal statement. So if you're a rising senior next year, it'll be perfect for you to take this course and start to prepare to write your personal statement. So I'll also include that in the email with the recording. And if you need any help with writing that personal statement, with writing your scholarship essays, just reach out. We'll be here. Well, thanks everyone. So we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.